the way that most people talk about BitTensor, I think, is a bit of a red herring, and I think they're thinking way too far in the future. Like, in 20, 30 years, BitTensor could be this massive thing, and ultimately, all my focus is on the next 2 years. I don't give a shit whether it does become the big AI god in the future. Like, at the moment, all I'm doing is how can I squeeze enough profits out of the market until December 2025, where I start phasing out and then having a sit on my hands and observing the market. That's all I give a shit about. So for me, it's what is going to moon the most with the least amount of risk for the next 18 months or so. So that's my context, by the way. So yeah, it may well be this big fancy thing, but at the moment, the next 2 years, it's not going to be that big fancy thing. So yeah, I'm just looking for the low risk, high probability outcome play. That's my context. So I'm just going to share some little slides. The way I personally think about it, and I'm trying to explain this in a way that I had my revelation. So if Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tesla, GitHub, and Google had a baby, and the baby just took all the best bits of all those things, what would it look like? So let's have a little look at the good parts of all of those entities. So first of all, Bitcoin. The list is long. I've had to really trim it out. But the real key with Bitcoin is that the internet was a globally scaled network that transmitted value. Sorry, the internet was a network that transmitted information. Bitcoin was now a globally scaled network that transmits value. So that was really the first big revolution of Bitcoin. It transmits value, and also it's censorship resistant. It then became an accidental store of wealth / a hedge against M2 expansion. Okay, that was never its main intention. It should have been a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, which it failed. So it then accidentally became a store of wealth. But hey ho. Fair launch, grassroots community. You had people just mining it off their own laptops and stuff like that. Back in the day, Pizzagate and all that sort of stuff. Good old Laszlo. And also it had long, well thought out tokenomics. And I think it had very good tokenomics for the ecosystem which it was launched in back in the day, right in the tail end of the subprime mortgage collapse, etc. And I still maintain some of the comments I've said about TAO, where it seems as though they've just tried to shoehorn in the Bitcoin tokenomics into it, but the world right now is a completely different place. We have crypto, it's established, we've got all sorts of infrastructure. So I think the emission schedule that Casper has is extremely well thought out for launching now and for the future. So it's got lovely accidental tokenomics, which I'll talk about, but the way the emission schedule is, I think it's been slightly lazy, but who am I to say? The people who made BitTensor are far cleverer than I am. Bitcoin's become personal monetary sovereignty and a foreign currency for all. So it's a way that you can literally take control of your own wealth. And also it's harnessed the most powerful human influencing tool ever. And which is a congruent incentive-based competition. And I don't think people put as much onus or weight to Bitcoin with that. I think people don't really understand that this incentive-based competition part of Bitcoin is the sole reason why it's exploded and done so well. And there's, in 2013, Bitcoin was a bigger supercomputer than every other supercomputer combined. I'm going to say that again. In 2013, if you took every single supercomputer on the planet and put them together, it wasn't as fast or as big as Bitcoin. And that was in 2013. Like, it's gone way orders of magnitude faster and bigger than anything else. So, and it's because of this incentive-based competition. It keeps everyone honest. If you're a shit miner, you don't get paid. And so, yeah. And it was decentralized, has no head honcho, no one to sue, all that sort of stuff. And it has, it's like a several 100,000 headed hydra. Like, the only way to kill Bitcoin is kill the internet, basically. And Bitcoin is nuclear holocaust proof. Like, all you need is just one ledger to remain intact, and Bitcoin could be discovered by aliens in 10,000 years, and it could get going again. So it pretty much is, bulletproof and nuclear proof. Yeah, so it's a huge supercomputer. So that's Bitcoin, without going too far into that. So what about the good parts of Ethereum? Well, like Bitcoin, you could transmit value, but for the first time in crypto land, it added real utility other than peer-to-peer electronic cash. It became the WordPress of crypto. So just like WordPress is like a website building engine where any business owner or any person can go onto WordPress, get some, basically build a website. And then there's marketplaces where you can buy skins and themes and all that sort of stuff. So WordPress for websites was Ethereum for crypto. And dApps, decentralized apps, just, boom, exploded. And to this day, Ethereum makes more revenue than any other crypto on the planet. Not combined, but by a lot more than most combined, let's say. It has the most commits to GitHub, it has the most core devs, has the most part-time devs. Like, it's past many sort of minimum thresholds, so it's here to stay. So as I said, it created the infrastructure and framework for dApps to explode. And also, if some person created a really good dApp, an ERC20 dApp, and it went to the moon, it helped Ethereum as well, because obviously you need ETH as gas fees. And it's also cash flowing now. You can stake ETH. Obviously, you get a piss poor APR, but it's better than a kick in the balls. So Tesla, what are the real pros of Tesla? And by the way, just bear with me. I know you're like, okay, what has all this got to do? Just bear with me. I'm just picking all the best bits. Remember, we're building this multi-entity baby here with just the, I'm doing a bit of CRISPR genetic editing here, and I'm just taking all the good bits. So Tesla, it is literally the most innovative company ever to exist. Was as long as humans have existed, let's say. It's really just a massive company, a massive umbrella. So Tesla is this big umbrella. Under it, you have huge businesses doing crazy things. It's not a car company. You have cars, you have robots, you have insurance, you have AI, you have energy, power packs, solar. There's so many things Tesla does, all under the umbrella of Tesla. So if any company under that umbrella does well, Tesla does well. And it's pushing boundaries in all aspects. And in pretty much everything Tesla does, it's laying down huge foundations and infrastructure. That's the key thing. So it's like when they discovered the United States of America, well, no, not US. When they discovered North America back in the day, there was no infrastructure. Everyone was sort of huddled around New York, the East Coast, because it was like a barren mountain land, like the further west you go. And then people started laying down train tracks west. And they're like, what are you doing? There's nothing west, just, people that will kill you in cold weather and high mountains. But the people laying down the train tracks, building an infrastructure, and then people will develop, or evidently have developed on it. And also Tesla right now is probably the best AI company on the planet. It's had a lot of catching up to do because Google's had that mantle for a long time, but it's got all the best AI people now. And I mean, if you look at what Elon and his team have done with Grok, with basically in a couple of months, Grok is already as good as ChatGPT 3.5. In a couple more months, it's going to be way better than GPT-4, and probably a couple more months it'll be better than GPT-4 Turbo. So, the how he does it boggles me, but yeah. We then have GitHub, the next entity in this sort of tech orgy here. It's the beautiful thing about GitHub is it's a global repository for the world of coding. Simple as that, really. And then Google. We all know Google. Similar to Tesla, it's a big umbrella company. Most people haven't got the foggiest of what Google does. I mean, every time I try and look into Google, I find a new business or a new niche that it's doing. And it does a lot of it privately and like quietly. So they do sit on a lot of their tech. So Google's done wonders for humanity. I know people don't like Google, etc. But come to think of it, you got free GPS. You got free access to the aggregate of all human knowledge at your fingertips, and YouTube and all that. So they've done. We can bitch about Google for spying, but they've given as much as they've taken, I reckon. But yeah, don't forget, we are the product. And it has been spearheading AI for years because it's got all the data. Like Facebook has 2,000 data points on every user it has, and I don't know about Google, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was more. And the thing I don't like about Google is it's trying to create AGI, and it's a lot faster than expected. All the prominent AI scientists out there, they start off going, oh yeah, AGI will be beyond 2050. Then there was like just before 2050. Then it was like down to 2035. And now a lot of them are saying before 2030. Even Ray Kurzweil, who is like always right, he says, he says before 2030 AGI will be a proper AGI, which is pretty scary. And you're getting, Geoffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, quitting Google because of his concerns about that. And yeah, like Tesla, it has vast raw compute power. Like Elon said, he's bought up 10,000 H100s, as in GPUs from NVIDIA, and he can't buy any more. So like Tesla is building a huge supercomputer. Google has more. Google has quantum computers as well. But yeah. So what would this love child look like? And I think BitTensor is that love child, which is why I feel like a bit of an idiot for sleeping on it or just dismissing it too quickly. But hey ho. So as I said, this is the main reason why I just couldn't get my head around it. You open up the white paper, and all 15 pages is full of words like this. And yeah, I didn't stand a chance. So if we just have a little look, see, like this is the white paper, and yeah, I could understand page 1 because it was in English, and then page 2 downwards I just didn't understand. I fully admit that, and I spent a long time just putting it into Bard, asking it what the hell does this mean. And to be honest, I think most people that invest in TAO don't really understand what they're investing in. So, and for me, for that matter, you have to understand. If I just get paint out here, like with any project, like if you were to draw a line of comprehension, okay, so 100% comprehension is here, absolute zero comprehension is over here. So if let's take Casper for example. You have Jonathan over here, Sompolinsky. He obviously understands 100% of Casper because he freaking built it with help with his team. But then you have to have an honest look at yourself and go, really, how much do you understand about Casper? So if you take the core devs, they're going to range from sort of like 90% comprehension to 100. Other devs are probably going to have 80% comprehension upwards. You're going to have some hardcore, investors that are there from day one. They're probably 70% upwards. And there's always going to be this hard wall where if you don't understand code or coding or just anything, you're just never going to understand that latter half. So obviously I like to think I'm probably somewhere between sort of the 50 to 60% area. But ultimately, I'm just standing there trying to peer over this wall, which I don't understand. And then you get, degens this way, all the way down to 0. So, I've spent, I like to think I know more about Casper than most, but really, I'm only somewhere around here. Now, if you take that same example for BitTensor, it's, just shove everyone left. Literally just move everyone left. So, if I know this much about Casper, I literally know this much about TAO. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that you ultimately you don't need to know every single thing. It's like we all use email, we all use the internet, but do you really know every single in and out of how email works or how the internet works? You don't. And I'm pretty sure all of you here have a firm grip of Bitcoin and why it's so good to have. But you can get that, you can have that realization with a very low understanding of it. So that's my sort of sort of example on that part in terms of the white paper and whatnot. So if I then just catch up where we are, dear Lord. Yeah. So here is one of the things that I've asked Google Bard. One of the questions is obviously a follow-on question, because I was like, now explain so that a 15-year-old can understand, please. Sure, and I will read this out, by the way, because it is worth, just bear with me, okay? So imagine you're trying to teach a friend to recognize different types of flowers. You show them pictures of roses, daisies, and sunflowers and explain the key features of each flower. Your friend learns to identify the different flowers based on their shape, color, and other characteristics. Similarly, AI tensors are like blueprints that help computers learn to recognize things. They are like detailed instructions that tell the computer how to identify different patterns or features in data. For example, if you want a computer to recognize cats and dogs, you would feed it a bunch of pictures of cats and dogs along with AI tensors that describe the key features of each animal. The computer would use these tensors to learn what makes a cat and a dog. AI tensors are like the ingredients of machine learning. They provide the information that computers need to learn and make predictions. Just like a chef uses different ingredients to create different dishes, AI developers use different types of tensors to create different types of machine learning models. In the context of BitTensor, AI tensors are stored and shared on a blockchain, which is like a secure digital ledger. This makes it possible for anyone to access and use these tensors to create their own machine learning models. This can help to make AI more decentralized and accessible to everyone. And for the first time in a long time, Google Bard has given actually a very good answer. And this was one of the things that helped my understanding. And by the way, BitTensor means Bitcoin and then tensor. So BitTensor. So this is why there are a lot of similarities with Bitcoin and BitTensor. So moving forwards, let's jump in a little bit more. So just like some of the other entities I mentioned, it's the ultimate AI umbrella that incentivizes, cultivates, and innovates a multitude of AI tendrils / niches. I'll talk about tendrils in a minute, like Tesla and Google do, but distributed and decentralized like Bitcoin was. Now I say was because Bitcoin is not decentralized anymore. In fact, there are 2 mining pools that have more than 51% of the hash rate. So yeah, it's definitely not decentralized anymore. It's very much centralized. And I wouldn't be surprised if BlackRock own more than you think. So, as I said, it's like Bitcoin suddenly had a smart contract platform that specifically focused on AI projects and used a small portion of the emission schedule to promote competition and reward work, like the Bitcoin mining network. Okay, so hopefully, I know we're not taking questions just yet, but this is being recorded, so hopefully, bit by bit, I'm slowly sort of trying to I'm doing little slaps in the face, and hopefully the whole thing will end up being a big slap in the face of realization. Excuse my language, I'm just not good with words. So let's compare it to Bitcoin. So yes, it is a transmitting of value, but TAO, the token or the coin for BitTensor, is simply the key that unlocks access to the network, and it's also censorship resistant. So I guess that's one of the many things that give TAO some value. If you want access to all the machine learning models, or the network in itself, you have to use TAO. And I'll talk about why that's important. So Bitcoin, accidental store of wealth. Yeah, well, I guess the closest sort of comparison to that is that TAO is literally a direct competitor to centralized AI. So is literally the pure opposite to OpenAI that has ChatGPT. Fair launch, grassroots community, yeah. Long, well thought out tokenomics, yeah. It's pretty similar. It has a 4-year halving, and it's going to go on for a long time. And yeah, it just like Bitcoin had personal monetary sovereignty. This is more like having a piece of the future AI value / voting power. Now, this is, I think, probably the weakest of parts, because I still don't, whether I don't understand it or I just don't believe it, but I just think, yeah, I'm undecided on that. But here's the thing, it's harnessed the most powerful human influencing tool ever, congruent, incentive-based competition. And congruent is also a key word there. So, and I'll explain, this will all make sense. It's decentralized, no head honcho really. I mean, it's got some core devs, just like Jonathan is a core dev for Casper. It's got some co-founders, etc., but it has no team, there's no company, etc. And it is also a several 100,000 headed Hydra. And it is a very big supercomputer. It's not the biggest, definitely not. I mean, it's still a baby, but it's growing very fast. So, one of the ways that I sort of understand it is that it's trying to build a mechanical brain. Now, if you take the human brain, it's vastly complex. As I said at the cuddle, we have supercomputing powers, and our brain is powered by 10 watts of energy. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's so efficient. So, but if I get my little doodle thing out here. Let's get a white one and let's make it a bit fatter. Can I have a fatter pen, please? There we go. So if you were to sort of analyze that human brain, there's so many sort of tendrils in your brain that we just take for granted. So for example, if you were to really peer into it, there's going to be something in your part of the lizard part of the brain, which is automatically breathe. Like we take that for granted, we just do that, but don't forget there's something in our brain going, right, you've got to breathe now. Okay, now exhale. Like, I'm really dumbing it down, but that's basically how our brain works. I was chatting with Steve the other night, like, here's another one. So for example, if you heard the sound of a dog running down the road, what has just happened in your brain right now? Your brain has instantly pictured or visualized a dog running down the road, even though all you're hearing is the noise. So in your brain, there is basically a tendril out there, which is basically taking audio into video. So that's pretty cool, right? So your brain is automatically, if I say pink elephant, there we go. You've all thought of a pink elephant. So there's another thing in your brain that's taking audio into, I don't know, pics. There's all sorts of stuff, like if knowing where your limbs are. Limb awareness, let's just call it. I'm just trying to pick random things here. Limb awareness. Now, so if we were to, try and pluck out all of these little tendrils in a human brain, we'd be here forever. I mean, there would be, millions, billions of different things that our brain does that we take for granted. Well, imagine you're trying to build a mechanical, artificial intelligence brain from scratch, because that's what humans are doing. You will literally have to code every single one of these millions of different strands. You could literally, I mean, we as a community, we would take years to come up with even a fraction of what the brain does. So for example, a panting dog sprinting down the road, that audio clip, that needs coding. If you're going to build this AI brain, this neural net, you need some AI wizardry that converts audio into video. And if you can do that, you can also do audio into pics. And so every little thing is basically a massive AI project. So this is why I said BitTensor is effective like the umbrella for lots of mini companies and lots of mini niches, because that's what it is. BitTensor is the brain, and it hasn't been built yet. And so what BitTensor has is a thing called subnets. So subnets is their smart contract equivalent to Ethereum. So Ethereum came on and went, hey, here's our programming language Solidity, and you can build apps on the blockchain, right? Boom, like WordPress with websites, Ethereum with dApps. BitTensor is now create and laid out the infrastructure and the roads to building these little tendrils. Obviously, I'm using this word tendrils. You won't find this on the internet. It's just the way that my head works. These little stringy bits of stuff coming out of the brain. And so, for example, let's say this brain that you can see here is BitTensor. If I wanted to create an audio into visual niche, that will be its own subnet. So I can come along and go, right, I'm gonna set up a token or a company or I'm just gonna build some code that does this. This will be one part of it. If someone else goes, actually, I've got a better way to do audio into video, they can also launch their little coding thing, or hell, they can launch a token. It doesn't really matter. And they could go, right, yeah, audio to visual, or video, etc. And guess what? And let's say this one is better than this one. Guess where all the emissions are going? Because anyone that codes and builds stuff on a subnet gets some of the emissions. And don't forget that with the emissions, there's 7,200 tau emitted every single day, because it hasn't had its first halving yet. So just like Bitcoin emitted 50 Bitcoin a block, tau is in that very early stage. So 2025 is the first halving. So what happens with the emission schedule, that 7,200 tau per day, that's issued to miners and validators, right? So miners, because they're doing work, we'll come on to that in a bit, and validators. So these validators are basically rewarding good work in a nutshell. So for example, if this project's doing, so for example, this audio to visual subnet will get an allocation, so all the validators will go, yeah, we want to put this amount of weight, this percentage of the emissions into the audio to visual subnet. So there's going to be a kitty there. And then guess what? Audio into video, this one over here, let's call it number 2, will still get some emissions because it's being rewarded, because it's still doing work. But this one, because it's much better, will get more of the emissions. And then if Billy Big Balls comes along with an even better A to V sort of algorithm or whatever, they just this is where it comes congruent incentive-based competition. So this is a subnet, and this is a project on the subnet. So for example, if you take like ChatGPT is simply it's this huge thing within OpenAI, but really it's just a tendril. Just imagine ChatGPT is simply a project. So ChatGPT is simply a project in the text to well, it's not. No, what do you call ChatGPT? It's text to text, really, isn't it? It's text to text to knowledge. Let's just call it, or something. So this would just be a subnet. And I guess technically you could say, right, well, Llama 2 is here, you got Google Bard, that's there as well. There's all sorts of competition. And by the way, BitTensor also has its LLM, its text-based large language model. And it's got loads. It's got text to pictures, it's got all sorts. It's got a subnet which is scraping data straight from Reddit and Twitter, and that's simply just a data harvesting thing. For those oldies here that are in the previous bull market, remember Filecoin? So there was Filecoin and Siam. These were data storing blockchains, weren't they? They were all projects where you could do distributed, decentralized file storage on the blockchain. That's great. Well, guess what? BitTensor has a subnet with decentralized, distributed file storage. So, like any possible project that you could think of in AI is going to be a subnet on BitTensor. And also, the way that this congruent incentive-based competition works is that it acts like a bit of a Hoover. So it's already a $1.4 billion market cap, so it's got some real size now. But it incentivizes to bring in new talent. So let's say I was an AI geek and I had a project that I wanted to do, and I've got this project where I could turn, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of a rather abstract thing. Let's say I could turn humming. I don't know. No, that's too silly. My brain's gone blank. I don't know. Yeah, let's say I wanted to do decentralized distributed computing. Okay, so like supercomputing, basically like Dynex. For those that cuddle, know what I mean by Dynex. Well, guess what? I could either, me as the AI scientist or the supercomputer scientist, I can either go out there and set up a brand new company myself, try and find some other coders and data scientists, to join the team and start building this project. And then I'd have to then go and get some VCs to try and fund it because we need salaries, or there's so many barriers in the way of innovation if you're like the talent, let's say. Whereas an AI, that person could go, actually, well, I've got this really good idea to make, distributed supercomputing more efficient, let's say. Yeah, let's say you've got an algorithm that just makes it way faster, more efficient, so you can send more bandwidth through the same wires, if that makes sense. So what you could do is go, actually, screw setting up a company. I could literally just launch my project on this BitTensor subnet. I'll tell the whole BitTensor community, hey, I'm launching this algorithm thing. It's going to make supercomputing amazing, and therefore BitTensor as a distributed supercomputing play is going to go great. Well, that will immediately get loads of attention from all the validators, and the validators will go, yeah, okay, all right then, well, yeah, let's launch a subnet, and we'll direct, 5% of all daily emissions to your subnet. And then it's like, holy shit, let's just do the maths there. Let's just, I'll just get my calculator out. So straight away, you've got, 7,200 TAO, and your brand new subnet is getting 5% of that per day. You get a 360 TAO a day as sort of startup funding. So it really incentivizes people to come up with, new subnets or to do your thing on an existing one. And then obviously, by the way, if your project is shit, well then you're not going to last because someone else is going to come along and start competing against you. So the reason why I think I was so late on BitTensor is because this subnet thing was only launched in October. So obviously, when I was looking at this in summer, May, June, July, etc., I was looking at it going, well, this is a bit shit. It's got nothing. It's just whatever. And then obviously I had, my mind fixed on it, and I was oblivious to the fact that they launched this whole subnet thing in October. Now, the moment I was aware of this subnet thing, that was for me. This was one of the sort of wet fish slaps in the face, because I realised, holy shit! Well, any sort of AI project will just be hoovered up by BitTensor, or whatever AI project there is. There will very quickly be a subnet launched on BitTensor, which will do exactly the same thing. So the LLM that it has is very good. The text to picture subnet is also very good. So for me, that was a real game changer. So let's just get rid of my doodles. Oh dear Lord, doodles have not disappeared. Stand by. Clear all drawings. There we go. So yeah, and also don't ignore the rising growth of open source entities. So when GPT and Bard came out, etc., Hugging Face was a decentralized thingy. It was a decentralized LLM, and it's grown very fast. So I think there is a movement of open source which people like, and that's because people are becoming more aware of Big Brother and concentrated power. Why is this thing not moving? There we go. So, lovely tokenomics. There's two, well, as I said earlier, I think it's more accidental, lovely tokenomics. So, personally, I'm still not overly impressed by how closely it's copied the Bitcoin tokenomics. But there's sort of an accidental spin-off reason why it's so good. So if you go to taostats.io, in fact, before I carry on, I just want to double check. Can you all hear me and see me? Can you see my screen? I haven't just been talking to myself for the last 40 minutes.
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Phew, thank God for that. Slightly nervous there when it's silence. It's because when I pressed the PowerPoint thing, I couldn't see any of you or any of the whatever. So if you go to taostats.io, it gives you a whole bunch of stats. Well, no shit, Sherlock. And if you go to blockchain, then tokenomics. I sort of mentioned this a while back. So this is absolutely mind-blowing. I don't think I've ever seen a project of this size with such pitiful in a good way, of free float. So the grey stuff is going to be emitted over years and years, just like the Bitcoin emission rate. And the orange and turquoise stuff is what's actually out there right now. But because of all these incentives, 89.32% of all TAO in existence is being staked and locked up. Which means there's only 10% that's actually available to be bought and sold. No wonder when you look on Mexi, the order book is so thin. It's just incredible. So this actually, you know how I said that I don't really give a shit what it does in 20, 30 years, yada yada yada. That's all pie in the sky stuff. It may or may not happen. All I care about is what is TAO going to do for me over the next 2 years? And that one picture is pretty much all I need to see. Obviously, I need good fundamentals. I need a good bull market to start developing. That's tick, tick, tick. But then look at that circulating free chunk there, 10%. That is only going to add rocket fuel under TAO as the bull market starts. As it starts getting more traction, it's really gonna ping. So if you then look at BitTensor and CoinGecko, I do feel I was rather foolish in saying, in the past I've looked at this and go, oh my god, it's only 5.7 million out of a maximum of 21 million. You're just going to get absolutely dumped on with this future emissions, and it was just me being ignorant and not really looking into it too much. But if you go to markets, at the moment it's only on Mexi, right? So literally you can only buy it at Mexi. It's a $1.4 billion market cap, yet the 2% depth is dreadful. So yes, it means you could sell a lot and it'll dump the price a lot. But I've been playing around with TAO for a while now, playing around with the order book on Mexi, to more specifically. So I know with first-hand evidence with a relatively large chunk of money how that order book works. And it's amazing because a little bit of money pushes the price up really quickly. So that was actually a problem for me to scale in at a good price. And then whenever you try and dump TAO, the price goes down, but it's very short-lived. So it's like there's always people on the sidelines going, oh shit, that's a bargain, I'm buying that. So that's quite promising. So also, like, it's got all the bullishness of like Casper does, that it's done so well to date during a bear market, and it's not even on a major exchange yet. And so, like, it's sort of turbocharging the reasons why Casper is not on a major exchange, because a major exchange has to go out and buy the freaking token if they want to do it. But because there's no marketing fund, no team or company, no one's paying an exchange to list them. And because there's so little supply, like, eventually when a big exchange does come to list them, they're going to have to, there's really not much out there. So it's the equivalent of, BlackRock trying to jump into the tiny swimming pool of Bitcoin. The equivalent is much easier to make a splash in TAO. So for me, that's mega. So it's got lovely accidental tokenomics. Now, excuse me. Let's just do it here. So let's look at future growth comparisons compared to CAS and TAO. And I've looked at a very pessimistic outlook. So I've said this to a few people, and I'm sorry if you, I feel tired of saying the same thing myself, really. But if you look at the previous bull market and you look at the top 20, you will see, market caps of anywhere from sort of 10 billion to 100 billion plus, right? And so I was saying, let's imagine that CAS and TAO do well, but they just sort of fizzle out because, something new came along or whatever. And let's just go with 50 billion, right? So let's just say CAS and TAO only get to $50 billion market cap, which is woefully pessimistic in my opinion. So when you do the math, I'm just trying to be able to change the colour here. I don't like red. Blue, that's better. So over the next... no, this is wrong. I apologise, folks. I got my numbers wrong, so we're going to do this in real time. So let's say over the next... or by December 2025, the circulating supply of Casper will be 26.7 billion Casper. So all you do is 50 divided by 26.7. You actually get to $1.80. So I'm just going to get my phone just to double check that maths. So 50 divided by 26.7 gives you, $1.87. So if you do $1.87 divided by the price of CAS right now, which is 12.8 cents, you're looking actually at a 14.6x from here. Let's just round it down. Screw 14, there we go. So if you're looking at Casper with this very pessimistic outlook, you're going, well, holy shit, $1.87, and what's the price right now? 12.8 cents. Well, that's a huge, delta, a value delta there. So it's basically a 14x of your existing Casper pot, which is mega. So let's do the same with TAO, right? By December 2025, guess what? The circulating supply is going to be, not dollars, it's going to be roughly 10.5 million. So if you just do, I'm just doing it on my phone here, so $50 billion divided by 10.5 million, that gives you a TAO price of 4,761 point blah 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 blah. Let's just round it down, screw it. Let's just round it down to, 4,500. Well, what's the difference? What is that multiple? So you do 4,500 divided by the price of it right now, which is, call it $250. That's an 18x from now. I found that interesting personally. I don't know about you. Because then the next question you got to ask yourself is, well, okay, that's all very well, Siam, playing around in numbers. Anyone can do that. What's the probability and the likelihood that CAS can even hit 50 billion and TAO can even hit 50 billion? Well, I think it's very, very likely, but you're just going to have to make up your own mind and opinion out of that. So in terms of potential uplift with using the same market cap metric, TAO actually has more upside than CAS. Shock horror. That's like blasphemy in CAS cult land. So let's just clear all drawings. So as you can see, I think it's rather promising. Oh, look, looks like I did the right slide, but then forgot to delete the wrong slide. So yeah, 10.5, yeah. And also, just looking at the market cap thing, during the last bull market, near the peak, it wasn't the all-time high. It was the all-time high market cap, but not for these individual things. The average is 1.19% of total market cap. And a lot of these like Sol, Ada, BNB, some of these were like, way more than that. So, I mean, if you're just looking at, let's say we have a low market cap of $4.4 trillion and we go, oh, screw it, let's just use the average, 1.19%. Excuse the maths here. So 4.4 trillion times 0.0119. That gives you a 52 billion. Yeah, 52.36 billion. So actually, my previous example is pretty tame, to be fair. So yeah, I mean, if it gets to double that, 2.4%, which Seoul hit 2.4%, or it actually went higher than that. This is just a rough average around the high. Yeah, I mean, you're looking at what, $9,000 TAO. So yeah. Anyway, we're playing with numbers, which may or may not happen.
Really 1%. That's hilarious.
Yeah, I know, it is hilarious. So, and the next thing my brain has been thinking, especially for the last week, is there any point in investing in any other AI project? It's a real question. Like, during the cuddle, I was talking a lot about Dynex. And even during talking about Dynex and presenting, there's still parts of me thinking, is there any point to Dynex's existence? So I've been really re-evaluating my Dynex pot. I've only got 7% of the pot in Dynex. I've actually come to the conclusion, yes, Dynex is still valid because they do decentralized directed neuromorphic supercomputing. So it's actually the fastest computer on the planet right now, Dynex. So BitTensor doesn't have anything near that neuromorphic capability, or with the Q score, as I explained in the. But here's the thing: what's stopping someone going, Dynex, I like what you're doing. I'm just going to try and copy you, but on a subnet in BitTensor. It's like all of a sudden, Dynex's existence doesn't really, it's in jeopardy then. So I'm very quickly coming to the conclusion that if you really want to ride that AI wave over the next couple of years, I don't think it hurts just going all in on your AI allocation just on BitTensor, because you're covering all the bases. Because what loads of crypto projects will be is like the next text to image app or whatever. It's like, screw that, just BitTensor. It's got loads of them in one subnet. So at the moment there are 30 subnets, and they will be increasing that. It won't be long till it's 100 and whatnot. So this is the reason why the price of TAO has gone crazy since, guess what, October, since the subnet play came out. And I'm just annoyed I didn't freaking do a deep dive again. So I guess the learning point as an investor, in my opinion, is that if I do a deep dive in something and I come to the conclusion that it's not worth looking at, I need to increase the frequency of my re-looks, if that makes sense. So for me, with BitTensor, I've done two very deep dives, or two deep dives, let's just say, probably a good 5 or 6 months apart. Had I increased the frequency of my relook, or as in just adding another, let's say I did it every 3 months, I may have caught a lot more of that TAO upside. And I have caught a fair bit because I started buying TAO at like 150, and it's gone up to 300 and back down a bit. So that's one of my learning points as a trader and an investor in the future. So just that if you have an opinion on something, doesn't mean it's correct indefinitely. Things do change, and you are more likely just not picking up the right things. So here's this really contentious part of the slides today. Could $15,000 in TAO right now enable you to become fully retired within 2 years? I mean, it's such a wanky sentence, isn't it? We've seen this in social media everywhere. But let's just humour me for a moment here. Could 15k of TAO right now enable you to quit your job in 2 years? And the other reason I love it is because of the cash flowing aspect of it. So if you look in their documents, by the way, the white paper is confusing. You then look at the documents, they are still very confusing. So this is a screenshot from their actual documents talking about delegators, stakers, nominators, and it's just confusing as hell. So I'm going to So what I'm about to say is slightly inaccurate, but it's accurate enough for you to understand, most of it, if that makes sense. So I ignore all this, and I'm aware what I'm about to say is slightly inaccurate, but it actually doesn't matter. In fact, I'm going to exit this, discard doodles, and I'm just going to get paint out here. So you have... No, let's just keep it in normalcy, because they have their own language, and then Cryptoland has its own language. So let's just take everyday folk, so stakers, you and I. We have some TAO, we want to stake it. You have some validators, and that's, by the way, who you stake with. And then you also have the miners. Now, ignore the miners for the moment. I'll come back to the miners another time, because I want to talk about proof of useful work in a bit. But for now, in terms of the cash flowing opportunity, all you need to care about is that you're a staker and that you stake your TAO with a validator. And the cool thing is that you're not handing over your TAO to the validator. They can't run away with that. You're simply, it's like with Polkadot, you're delegating your pot to a validator. So with Polkadot, you're locked up for 30 days. You get, an alright APR. But with BitTensor, effectively, a staker gets 18% yield, and a validator gets 21% yield. But what also happens is that, without trying to confuse everything, is that validators also get an extra 18% sort of kickback. So when you really bundle it all in, validators really get about 26-27% APR. So validators make a nice arbitrage. So they can, they'll give you this is written into the code. Stakers get 18% minimum, absolute minimum. And so depending on who you're staking with, you will get a range of 18% upwards. So the validator that I've managed to wangle in with the TAO that I'm staking, I'm averaging 26.47% APR. And this is APR, by the way. APR, not APY. APR, which is beautiful. Now, some of you are probably experiencing PTSD right now. Time Wonderland, yeah. Ohm. I got Ohm. You remember that song? Anyway. So PTSD, sorry, relapse, all that sort of stuff. So the next question you're probably thinking is, oh shit, where is this? Is this real yield? Where's this yield coming from? And I guess to a degree, it's similar-ish to, I don't want to say it's similar-ish to a rebasing DAO, because it's not. But the yield comes from two things. So when people are buying TAO and using TAO, and a very small chunk of the TAO is used to pay validators and also the miners. So use of the TAO generates that. But remember, there's that 7,200 TAO being produced every single day. Now, a chunk of that goes to validators, a chunk of that goes to the miners, a chunk of that goes to the subnet, and people on the subnets, all that sort of stuff. Well, actually, it goes to the validators, then to the subnet people, so ignore that second line there. So what happens is that the way it's coded in is that, yes, you can stake with your validator, and you will make at least 18% per year for a rather long time. And the maths actually work, whereas the maths didn't really work with the Ponzi-nomic rebasing DAOs. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ignore all the fancy stuff. I just want to do all the calculations just for 18%. So if we go back to the slideshow, and actually let's get the real price right now. So $256, right? So you are going to not hopefully. I am not incentivizing anyone to buy TAO or giving financial advice. So $15,000 worth of TAO right now will give you. Sorry, just get my calculator open. $15,000 divided by 256. fact, let's be even more pessimistic, because the moment you start buying, you're going to bid up the price. So 260, right? So you're going to have 57.69 TAO. Let's be really pessimistic, and let's say you only get your 18%. Okay, so we're just going to write 18% here, and we're just going to do the maths on that. So your 57.69 TAO is going to chuck out times 1.18 minus 57.69, 10.38 per year. Let's divide that by 12. You're going to get 0.865 TAO per month. And again, I'm giving you pessimistic figures here. This is the key thing, per month. And regardless of what the price does, you're still going to get your TAO per month. Now, I'm not going to talk about compounding interest and all that. Let's just assume every single month you sell your TAO into Tether, into sterling, and because you're going to pay your bills with it. Let's just say, so you're not compounding. You're just going to have your 8.865 TAO per month, and you sell it. Well, let's do the maths. We're at 200 and what was I say? 56. Let's just do 300 where it was 500. And then just for shits and giggles, the 4,500, which is that $50 billion market cap example. And yeah, let's screw it. Let's do $9,000 as well, which is the, what was it, 2.4% market cap on a very small market cap. So, oh, and also just for balance, let's just do $100 as well, in case it really crashes. So 0.865 times $100 from a crash. That means you're earning $86.5 per month. 0.865 times $256. So straight away, that's $221.44 per month. Nothing to sniff at. 0.865 times $300. That's where it was very recently. 259.5. If I just delete it this way, it'll be quicker. $500. You then get to this 432.5, and this is where I think within 2 years it has a potential to potentially enable you to quit your job, because $3,892 would be enough to quit your job, and then let's say it goes to $9,000 and then just retraces to 4.5, then you're golden. So, and at $9,000, you're making $7,785 a month. So, this is why I think it has the potential to be a really lovely cash flowing asset. And don't forget, you've still got the asset there. So worst case scenario, it goes, or not worst case, but let's say a bad case scenario, it goes to $100. So your 57.69 TAO that you've staked is now worth 5,769. So your equity, let's just bring it over here, is 5,769. So you've lost a fair chunk because you put 15k in, but hey, you're taking a gamble, taking a punt. This is crypto after all. And then on the flip side, if it goes to $9,000, let's just showing the extreme ranges. 57.69. You've got 519,210 and 7 odd grand a month. So when you do the risk to reward seesaw, you're basically looking at, okay, well, what's realistic? What's the risk to reward seesaw? So for me, if I'm being as realistic as I possibly can, and this is just my personal opinion, do not quote me on this. This is my personal opinion as of today. My mind often changes. What is the potential? What is realistically? I personally think $4,500 is, actually under-egging it a bit. So $15,000 now could potentially end up being 4,500 times 56.69. So you sat there on potentially 259 grand plus a residual income of just under 4 grand a month. So that's the reward part, and the risk is, okay, let's be extreme here, 0. Okay, well, what's the R multiple? The R multiple is shitloads compared to 0. I mean, let's not say 0, let's just say it's $1,000. Let's say you have a 99% wipeout of some sort. The risk to reward seesaw is so grossly askewed to doing it rather than not doing it. And as I've said in the trading course, if I ever see a 20R play, I'll just take it. I will always swing for the fences at anything that's 20R plus. So this has now met my criteria. This is more than a 20R play. But unfortunately, I'm probably going to make your life a bit harder now, because let's say you mildly agree with what I've been saying so far. You like BitTensor, you've decided to, you want some. You're going to have the very frustrating thought process of going, well, why don't I just go 100% all in on TAO, and then the yield that you get, you then buy Casper with the yield. Oh, I'm not doing that, by the way, but it has been a very strong thought in my mind.